Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhair-Agale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washmale. Ohaya Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal? Halishuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabi, Aballi Kare Aya. Hosh Galden and Ayo Sayo, Huyamora, Chivato, Chihal Jot, Kalimera, Khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan. It's a fine, sunny, hot morning over here in Islamabad and the weather's not changing. I wonder why. But first things first, Assalamu alaikum Hajra, how are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for introducing me. I think I would disagree certainly with your notion that weather is not changing, because I do feel a change in the weather, and especially at the nights, because you can sleep very comfortably in a fan too, right? And before that you had to turn on the AC. But
are you on the first floor or the ground floor?
No, on the first floor.
On the first floor?
Yes,
and
yes,
even then you didn't have to turn on your AC?
No, not at all, because
You're
I think
conserving energy. Wow, that's good. Yeah.
No, I'm not conserving energy.
It was 40 degrees outside just yesterday, you know.
No, at night the temperature certainly drop. It was not 40. Yes, the mornings are very strong. The mornings are very scorchingly sunny, but I think temperature really drops in the evening, and we are having a very pleasant sort of the evenings. And I think this is the most beautiful season to witness in Islamabad, to observe the changing seasonalities of the nature. But having said so, Shahzad, we cannot deny the fact that you're observing all of these weather patterns changing, and you can also not deny the importance of the collaboration of the multilateralism, right? So moving on to this aspect of it, I think in living in Islamabad, especially having your office in the most important arena of the Islamabad, which happens to be the red zone, you cannot
container lage hue, aap aa hi nahi pa rahe.
Yes of course, this is one of the drawbacks of having there, but I think you can also get to know a lot of things, political happenings which are going around. So one of the important political development is that Russian Deputy Minister is here, Deputy Minister of the Industry and Trade, Alexei Grodov, is here, and who called on the Minister for Industries, Production and National Food Security, Rana Tanveer Hussain, in Islamabad. During the meeting, they emphasized on the balance of trade between the two countries. And speaking on the occasion, Rana Tanveer stressed the need for modern agricultural machinery to boost the crop yields and enhance agricultural productivity, and added that the government will provide all the facilities to Russian investors in the country.
And in addition to this, the Deputy Prime Minister, Senator Mohammad Ishaq Dar, and his Russian counterpart, Alexei Overchuk, attended the signing ceremony. The MOU between the Pakistan Mercantile Exchange and the St. Petersburg International Mercantile Exchange was signed by Farhan Tahir, Acting Managing Director of PMEX. Ladies and gentlemen, representing Pakistan, and Igor Artemyev, President of PMEX, representing Russia. I think such bilateral coalitions is something which will actually always put your country onto the road towards success, prosperity. And ladies and gentlemen, there's this very simple notion. My father always used to tell me, you go to a market, you will get a barber, you will get a fruit vendor, you will get a grocery store. All of these people have to work together to make sure that their survival exists. And I think this is something beautiful if we are to witness even in human communities as well. When we talk about communities, when we talk about people coming together, such is the case that we are discussing today. Now imagine, Hajra, how many times we have spoken about poverty over here, unfortunately, in our country. Most of the time we are unaware of the facts that probably there are people out there, there are institutions, there are not-profit organizations who are actually working for the poverty alleviation. And then we say, oh, you know what, because we do not have our own research, we say, oh, the government's not doing anything. Or, because we're not really willing to learn about it, we kind of blame all of those people who are within the system, but that's not what the case is.
And I think one of the important things when we talk about the poverty alleviation is we need to devise the indigenous responses to alleviate the poverty, especially in a country like Pakistan. Yes, there are lots of models out there of poverty reduction, specifically coming from the West, but we need to also understand the context in which is operating, right? And when we talk about Pakistani society, we cannot deny the fact that Pakistan has a still very strong agricultural base, and especially when we talk about the poverty reduction, we cannot deny the very important equation of the agriculture. And like the Deputy Minister of the Russia said, that modern methods of agriculture needs to be acquired and needs to be implemented in the context of Pakistan. So Pakistan, I am really proud of the fact, has devised an indigenous poverty alleviation method in a collaboration with the private sector, and government has collaborated together to devise an indigenous response to make sure that they are catering to the people despite despite the fact that we are a resource deprived country, we do not have that rich amount of the resources to cater to our poor people, but there is a very successful organization out there which is doing its work out there. It is providing the social security to the people out there. They have different arenas. They're working
And
with the
imagine,
3.8 million
Haja,
poor households.
Yeah, and not just that, imagine that they are present in 72 districts, all provinces of Pakistan, made by Azad Jammu Kashmir as well, and they're touching upon 3.8 million people. How are they doing that?
Yes.
In fact, what they are claiming is that if you
Actually,
go to
they are
South Punjab,
3.8 million household, right?
Yes.
So there are a lot of other people if you multiply, because there are a lot of people living in one household, right?
imagine,
So
and now imagine that, you know, they claim that now if you go to South Punjab, you will certainly not find a person who want an asset because they believe in asset transfer, not money transfer. Let's figure it out. Let's unwind about it as well, ladies and gentlemen. We're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be a market leader in this, you know, without a doubt. You know, he actually left his, you know, he did his CSS, was in the DMG group, left it all, you know, made sure that he's going to lead the way out for all of those people who were in need as well. He happens to be the leader in development and social innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we have been joined by the Chief Executive Officer of National Rural Support Program Pakistan, Dr. Rashid Bajwa Sahab. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam, sir. How are you, sir?
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, sir.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you over here.
thank you
Same
so
here,
much,
sir.
sir, for being here. And I think Nrsp is doing a wonderful job when it comes to poverty alleviation. There are lots of case studies that have been designed on this particular model if the people of the third world countries want to follow it, right? So for our audiences out there, please explain the entire structure of it. How are you doing for the poverty alleviation? And there are a lot of sub-segments in that, right? We will touch upon that briefly, but please go ahead.
So this is a non-profit organization.
Yes.
We are a Section 42 company, and as a result, but this was the first, probably the first initial test of a public-private partnership, where the government of Pakistan actually came in and asked my chairman, mentor, Mr. Shoaib Sultan Khan, to set up this Section 42 company, which they did. And ever since, and this is 1991.
Yeah.
So now see, there's about 33 years already passed, and we have created one of the largest non-profit organization in the country. The public part of it is that it has a board of directors, 3 federal secretaries, Secretary Finance, EAD and Planning are
And there
ex-officio
is
directors.
a collaboration of the private and the public sector.
So this is
into
the
it, right?
private public sector. The rest
Right.
of the board is private, and then we have a management structure under the board, and then we have the field work.
So,
staff.
so very quickly, Haja, you know, just to kind of get to know about NRSP, and that is that how many people does NRSP employ? Just
So
roughly.
we employ about 16,000 professionals.
16,000 professionals. Now, what I wanted to ask was that, you know, while we were having this brief discussion about the show or what we're going to talk about, you said that, you know, this organization is one of its kind because it's self-financed. It's a non-profit organization. But imagine that the salaries and everything that they generate is by NRSP itself.
Exactly.
Is that true?
Exactly. So when
For
we
16,000
started off, the government of Pakistan did provide a 500 million grant, which was created into an endowment fund. But slowly, very quickly, we ran out of it. I mean, it was not enough. And then we had to devise strategies to ensure that the structure and the employees continue to be there. And so what we have done is that we have got a few what we call social enterprises.
Okay.
One of them is microfinance. We are the largest microfinance provider in Pakistan. And in the microfinance, we have our own microfinance bank. We also have a non-bank finance company. We have other social enterprises. All these enterprises, the profits go up to the mother company or the holding company, as we call it. And then there's a glass ceiling. You cannot take it home. So it has to reinvest it back down into the people. So this is the model, and this is a self-generating model. It's a
It's wonderful to work for NRSP.
And I think that's the amazing model that you need to come across. But sir, since your program focuses a lot on the rural areas, right? So it's National Rural Support Program, right? So when we talk about the rural areas, there is this phenomena which is grappling there. It's been there for a longer time, which is the feminization of the poverty. So a lot of the head members of the family, they go to the city lives in order to better live a living standard there, improve it, and women are left behind to bear the children and also look after the agriculture, right? And they're, I mean, they're invisible in the GDP because they're not documented. So when we talk about poverty alleviation and when we talk about eradicating this feminization of the poverty, how is NRSP supporting this entire, and making sure that this cycle is, disrupted?
So there is a structure around it. You cannot go to every household in every village.
Yeah, of course,
So unless and until people are organized and they meet together, it is impossible for somebody from the outside like NRSP to go and talk to every one of them.
Yes.
So the first thing which we do is organize communities. So we do it at 3 levels. One, it as the neighborhood level, which we call a mohalla level. We call it as community organization. All the community organizations, they federate at a village level and form a village organization, and then a third tier at the union council level called the local support organization. Now every tier meets every month. So NRSP goes to the local support organization, the union council organization takes the message down to the village organization, to the community organization at the mohalla, and to each household.
Wonderful.
So this is the structure.
Right.
Now every household has to have one member.
Right.
And guess who is the member? 58% are women.
Wonderful.
So that is how women are actually mainstreamed into this whole process.
Right.
Now this is a process. We don't go with any preconceived message or an idea. We don't go and start doling anything. What we do is we go with them, we sit with them,
Right.
and we develop what we call a micro investment plan.
Okay.
The plan is a simple question. Are you interested in improving your life?
Okay.
If you are, what kind of opportunities do you think
Wow.
you have in your life? And those opportunities collated together becomes the program.
Right.
So it is a demand response. It is actually flowing from the aspirations of the people themselves.
Right.
Then there is a cutoff. Maybe people might demand, oh, we need electricity, we need gas and everything
Yes,
else. So
yes,
we say that the cutoff is that we will only do work which you can do yourself.
Right.
If you cannot do it, we won't be able to
For
help you.
example,
So,
sir?
sir, how is it self-sustaining in
Yeah.
that part?
Now the self-sustaining part of it is that the social enterprises which we have,
Right.
these are actually offered to the people.
Okay.
Like for example, in the rural areas, the demand, most of the people, when they identify their opportunities in life to improve, and they find out that what is the impediment in that opportunity, and that impediment mostly is access to finance.
Right.
So they don't
Yeah.
have money.
Right.
No commercial bank is going to give a poor person any money. And we come up with this microfinance product. It has 3 different levels.
Yes.
One is an outright grant. We don't ask anything. If there's somebody who wants to set up a business, they can get a grant of up to 30,000 rupees.
Wonderful.
The second tier is we give interest-free loan,
Okay.
and that interest-free loan comes through various programs of the government as well as the provincial governments. And then the third is commercial level microfinance, where we borrow money from commercial banks. So we borrow money on wholesale, we retail, and there is a profit around it, and that profit then becomes. So this whole enterprise model allows us to maintain this structure which we have 16,000 people.
And
who
sir,
work.
how effective is it? Now, for example, you told us that how there are multiple tiers to it, and how the message is being spread. Number one, number two, that the solution is not one size fit all. So everybody has their own aspiration, and this is what it is. Now imagine that you spoke about that there are grants, 30,000 rupees you'll give away, no questions asked, interest-free loans. Are there any prerequisites? Because it does not really seem that easy or look that easy.
Yeah.
We haven't been through this, right?
The prerequisite is only one thing, that when they come up with us and they sign off,
Yeah.
then they have to do it. I mean, if I give a grant to somebody, we will ensure that grant
It
is
goes
not
there.
consumed.
Okay.
It is used for the purpose for which the grant was made.
All right.
If it is a loan, we try to ensure that the loan is used. This is how we create productive assets. And in the country, in Pakistan, there's no dearth of such aspirations of people. Everybody has a plan. They want to do something. They want to improve their life. They want to move ahead
Yep.
and
Yes.
move up. And so what we see is that there's a lot of what I call it entrepreneurship sentiment among the people.
कि अपना
You
काम
must have
करें.
seen- अपना काम करें. You must
Right.
have seen people, I mean, we are the third or the fourth largest population making these small videos on
TikTok.
On YouTube,
TikTok and other-
content creation.
So this is all a sentiment
Freelancing,
that
yeah.
people want to move up and they want to do something.
Ji.
And these enterprises, when you structure them together, not only most of them are successful, that they also create jobs for others. So once you create an enterprise, you need more people, and the people comes from the same.
Yeah, so if you've touched upon 3.8 million households,
Sir,
how many people do you think have made sure that they're going to sustain the model that you've provided them?
And Dr. Bajpai,
most of them, sir.
Most
of them. And the reason is
50%,
simple.
60, 70,
Yes.
80?
No, the reason is, most of them, not 60, 70, 80. And the reason is very simple. We don't go with any preconceived package.
Okay.
We ask them what do they want to do, and that's the aspiration. So the engine of the sentiment which is
कि
there,
आप बताओ क्या करना चाहते हो?
क्या करना चाहते हैं आप,
बड़ा आदमी बनना
उसके
चाहते हो?
ऊपर फिर आप स्ट्रक्चर बनाते हैं.
Wow.
आप ट्रेनिंग लेना चाहते हैं, you want to create, you want to get some skills, or you want to set up a business, or you want to do maybe education. We also have now started a grant where people, if they have a job, for example, their relative or somebody is in the Middle East and he is able to find a job, but he doesn't have the money for the airfare or the other things, we also provide that.
Okay.
So the idea here is that people should become productive.
And is it in connection with the incubation centers that we see budding these days as well, where they will give you office space, they will provide you with all sorts of help, emails, help you register your
That
business?
is more like a urban phenomena, sir.
Yep.
We are talking, so that you're talking here, I am down there. I'm
I got it, I got
I'm
it.
base of the
Yeah.
pyramid, grassroots.
And Dr. Bajpai, because this is a very interesting model, and you talked about the public-private collaboration, and this is a very indigenous response to poverty alleviation. So, and you've been, government is a one entity, right? And you've been a part of the government. So, if we dissect the organs of the government, we will see that it's an archipelago of different organs working together, and they are predisposed in this sort of a notion that they do not want to collaborate
That's a
together,
trick
right?
question.
There's a lot of red tapeism, there's a lot of bureaucratic, what do you call it, filing involved in that, right? So when we talk about poverty alleviation, and we cannot deny how much government is important in reaching out to all of those people. So how do you create that culture of collaboration out there so it's more efficient, it's more productive, and you are reaching out to a lot of
Sir
people
would have
out
been a
there?
federal secretary by now anyways, the three
So
federal
it's very
secretaries are
simple.
out there.
You have to understand that the government will not give direct cash or money. The system doesn't work like that. What the government does is that it creates a project. Then the project either it is financed by the government itself or a donor comes in, like the
Right.
World Bank. Any other donor would come in, Asian Bank, IFAD, European Union, other, etc. Then you have to, the government has to procure the services of a service provider. And for that you have to undergo what we call the PEPRA rules or the provincial SEPRA rules. Now, so we also compete. We compete and then we win.
Right.
The only thing is that we have a very high level of success rate. We have about 70-80%
Wonderful
success
consultants
rate.
to work with.
And then once we win the project, then there is a project management under which we work. So there is a structure, and you cannot just criticize the government, because the government has a system in place, and once you understand how the system works, then it becomes easier to
But-
understand. Then you can't criticize everybody.
But Dr.
We're
Bajpai,
not at all.
I
We're
think-
appreciating.
Of course. And
Yeah.
sitting on the PTV, we are really appreciative of what government is doing. But Dr. Bajwa, now let's move on to the cash transfers, because there is a component of the Nrsp in the cash transfers there. So number one.
Sorry, we don't do cash transfer, we do
Okay.
productive asset transfer.
Okay.
What is that, sir? Explain it to us.
Exactly. Explain it that, and also we would like to explore at the rural areas when we talk about how you are empowering the women out there, and especially you talked about the 58% of the asset transfer were made to the women out there, right? And when we talk about it again, so there is a data collection system out there, and when we talk about protecting those people and bringing a culture of resilience and protecting them against the calamities of the climate change. For example, there's a flood that is coming almost every year out there, right? So how does that data collection saves that people from the shocks of the climate change, or do you feel that the sheer calamity of the climate change is such a huge that it's not shock resistant
And
anymore?
sir, I want to club my question
Yes,
with it.
please.
Now, is it NRSP's initiative to work towards women empowerment, or this is exactly what you found when you went out there as well?
Well,
Okay, they were
answering
already empowered.
the last question first.
Yeah.
What I have learned in my 35 years of experience of working in development is that in Pakistan, the engine of development and poverty alleviation is women and not men.
Thank you, sir.
So we start from there. It is the women who's going to change
Mashallah.
the face of this country. Now you may say I'm biased, but you know this
No,
is
sir,
my
मैं
own
तो अभी
experience.
अम्मी को कह रहा था, अम्मी जी please अपनी वालदा को भी कह रहा हूँ
This
कि
one.
please go ahead.
Now coming to the productive asset transfers, I mean there are examples. For example, in South Punjab, we are doing a Punjab government EFAD funded South Punjab Poverty Alleviation program, where we are targeting women who are homeless,
All right.
and the government is providing them houses. Not only a house, including a toilet and solar panels.
Wow.
And we have already done about 20,000 such houses in
Mashallah.
South Punjab, and you can see them littered. And now the government has actually now, you must have read that the Chief Minister has just talked about 250,000 houses which are going to be built around it.
So total of 400,000 houses,
Yes.
right?
In Sindh, for example, in 2020 flood, 2022 floods, you know, the government of Sindh and World Bank is making about 1.2 million houses
Wow.
back, of which 400,000 are being built by Nrsp alone. We have already done 100,000 houses. Now, just imagine that the government is borrowing money from the World Bank, providing them a cash transfer, an asset transfer, building a resilient home which is climate resilient, flood resilient, and it is
sustainable.
something which people have not ever seen.
बिल नहीं भरने, किराया नहीं देने, कुछ भी नहीं है.
And the beauty is again focusing on women rather than men.
Wow, mashallah. I think it's wonderful.
but
But one
I-
more thing which I
yes.
would love to kind of connect with, and that is that just at the beginning of the program, I did mention that how, you know, in rural areas now NRSP is unable to find the people in need. You know, so and that too in perspective of South Punjab, you know, you mentioned that you know now it's hard for you to kind of go and look for families where they are in need now.
So when you have a targeted program and you have to target, otherwise everybody comes in, everybody says we are poor or we want this and that.
Bade
And
mane
why
halat
would
hai,
not
yeah,
everybody? It's a free man.
Get that,
But
yeah.
when you have a targeted program, you want to target, for example, there is a poverty scorecard under the BISP, the National Socioeconomic Registry. So if you target from 0, which has 0 asset, to 11, which is we are doing, and then you identify women and men who are at that level, and then it is not just the data, then you go and make sure that it is revalidated through the government, through the deputy commissioners, and then also our team goes in, and then you find out that how many people are left out. Many a time, sir, these kind of assets are already there, and there is always a duplication. So the same people would come forward every time to want an asset. But once you target it, you will find that it is that most of the time finding somebody who has not received any asset any time becomes difficult.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very careful. The other thing is that we have to make sure that the population which are targeting, so the right person gets the right
And-
product.
That's it, yeah.
And Dr. Bajwa, one last question before we wrap up this segment, because it is such an interesting discussion, and because of the paucity of the time, we are so limited and constricted. So when we talk about the asset transference, which NRSP is doing, are there certain conditionalities involved in it, for example, that might improve the outlook of the life in a positive sense? So for example, you know, if you acquire the education, we are going to transfer this asset, or are you thinking in
शादी
those
करेंगे तो घर
terms, right?
मिलेगा, you know,
Or
things like that.
maybe, you know, just registering out and, you know, having the CNIC with you, because in the rural areas there's this problem that women don't get out the CNIC, and they do not have the right to vote, right, because they don't have the CNIC. So are you thinking in those terms?
So as I said, we are bound by the project where
Yeah,
we
exactly.
compete, and we have to follow that. Now the Punjab Social Protection Authority, PSPA, they are the ones who have hired us to do this asset transfer.
Okay.
And in that case, we are not doing any, unfortunately at this stage there is no what we call a conditional conditional productive asset transfer.
Okay.
It's all unconditional.
Okay.
But your point is valid, that ultimately the government should come up with that any cash transfer or any asset transfer should have a condition.
Right.
Most importantly, to me, if you ask me, the condition should be that the girl child should be in school.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
mashallah.
yes.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Rashid
you
Bajwa
so
Sahab, for
much.
being
being with us.
Thank you so much.
Lovely to be in conversation with you. Learned quite a lot as well, and I believe that, you know, this program really needs to go out in all of the government institutions as well. That how NRSP has always sustained over years.
True.
Alhamdulillah, from 1991 till now, And obviously, it's
Still
because of
going on, right?
meritocracy as well. You know, a lot of people might have called Dr. Rashid Bajwa, yaar, ladka bhej raha hu, bharti kar lo. I don't know whether he said yes or not. But ladies and gentlemen, it's when you ensure meritocracy, I do believe that you certainly get the desired results out as well. And I believe that it is for all of us to learn that unfortunately, when we keep on hearing about different institutions failing to kind of fill in their own expenses, it's really heart-wrenching for us to see that we do have an amount of people who are very talented and can do wonderful things for the country. But unfortunately, when the merit is not ensured, we are unable to achieve our desired goals. And I think that's the message for this segment. For now, we're actually going to head out towards a short break. Once you guys will come back, how do we get these talented individuals? Is it because of preschooling? Is it when we're growing up, we learn a lot? You know, so let's discuss that, unfold that, unwind that. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. Have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Welcome back, and now we are going to unpack and unwind a segment that is very close to our heart, and we were talking about it yesterday also, which is relating to the early childhood education and how to dissect about it, how to go about it, because we've seen that when we were growing up, I think one of the most important thing was that our teachers, our parents were really focused on acquiring the education, right? And that revolved around, rote memorization, learning, and having all of those ABCDs into our minds. Yes, this is also an important aspect of it.
Not knowing why ABCD exists anyways.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is an important aspect of it, that we want our child to survive in this world, but we also need to question and come into that aspect of their life, that how to thrive in this society, in this very competitive society. And also one of the things that is associated with the early childhood development is how to regulate their emotions. So if they are feeling angry, how to go about it, how to teach them how to regulate their emotion. And I think this is something, a very good life lesson that is not taught anywhere, and we as a society need to come together and think on these lines. And obviously you cannot discount the power of play and having the fun when we talk about the education, because in that aspect of it, a child nourishes his creativity, his or her creativity, and make sure that whatever the inner world, that a very vibrant, very in-depth and very colorful inner world that a child is experiencing, is also able to put it out there. And we have seen in a lot of cases when the child grows up, entire creativity goes down, because he's just wrapped up, his wings are clubbed, his wings are cut down because of the social pressures, because of having to do this and that. But how to make sure that you remain connected with that inner child? We have someone in our studio who happens to be an educationist. She has a 20 years experience in the education segment. She's been in the Saudi Arabia, she was teaching there, then she came back to Pakistan. She has her own school here. We are very glad that we have been joined by an educationist who happens to be Miss Narjis Raza. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our
thank you
show.
so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here, that you finally decided to leave Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and came and do something for your own motherland's child as well. Children everywhere are the same.
Sure.
But very quickly, so this concept of preschool, we always thought as parents is to kind of, if the parents are busy, send the child to the preschool.
True.
What are the characteristics of a preschool which you will instill in the child and will benefit the child for the rest of their life?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for calling me in. I would like to tell you one thing, that as young parents, when parents are coming out and they are searching for a preschool or a school or a learning environment for their child, what is most important that they should look in? This is what I would guide them. I'm not like saying that go to that system or go to this place, but I would tell them that please go to a place where the childhood is valued as a very fundamental phase of life.
Right.
Because it's very important that wherever you are sending your child, the child is valued as an individual.
Yeah.
Plus the curiosity,
Right.
it should be instilled over there, rather than just putting them into the the academic world of ABC and 1, 2, 3. That is like just a part of learning. But okay, if they are curious enough, if they are given enough chance to play, if they are given enough chance to explore the world around them, if they are given enough chance to explore themselves, then it is the right.
Oh, madam,
way.
you know, I've got
Miss
two
Nargis,
daughters at home. Very
Miss-
sorry,
Miss-
Haja, but
Miss
I just have.
Nargis, But Shahzad, I've also seen that, and I think you can experience this problem because as a father, you're also concerned about your daughter's education. But there are lots of private schools in Islamabad, in Pakistan in general, that are just in a rented spaces, right? They do not have enough space, enough playgrounds where children can exercise their creativity, where they can play out there. So when we are talking about the power of the play, as an educationist, you know, how do you feel we need to go about this issue of schools being in the rented spaces? And those are the schools that every parent wants to go there, they wants their children to go in,
Definitely,
right? Because they have their name and there's this branded education coming in, there's a lot of commercialization that is going on. How to go about this problem?
Okay. Playgrounds, nature is a playground. Go out, search for nature, look into the trees, look at the flying birds, look at the clouds, everything. Okay, so this is your playground. Playing space means, like, you know, do you give an opportunity to have a free play time, like we used to have when we were kids in our houses,
Right.
putting up the cushions, filling it up with a sheet, sitting inside pretending that we are tenting,
Right,
like we are camping somewhere. So this is this kind of play is very important. When they take the role of somebody else, and then they learn while communicating with each other, while embracing each other's emotions, while solving the tiny
Yep.
conflicts that arise in between.
true.
I want this question, I also want, okay, let's come to a point where we can both play, and rather wasting our time, we'll sit together. So this is the power of play. This is how I believe that, you know, the language flows, the mathematical skills come in,
Oh, yes.
the scientific approach is there,
Right.
socio-emotional impact is there,
Yep.
curiosity is there, problem solving is there, critical thinking, cognitive development, motor skills, name it and you get it.
That's exactly what I wanted to
Yeah.
ask, because preschool is a forte of private schooling anyways. You know, I do not see any preschooling in any of the public schools out there.
True.
Now the question, I want to come back to that as
Please,
well, and that was that, now imagine that you said that, you know, we cannot give everybody one size fit all solution.
True.
And I'm glad that, you know, that there are schools who are thinking like that. Imagine that, alhamdulillah, I have two, you know, younger daughters, you know, one is 5, one is 4.
Great.
They both have different personalities. You know, one of them is all over the place. She wants to touch everything. She's inquisitive. She wants to ask questions. One of them thinks that, you know, that, okay, I'm a sober person. I'm just going to sit down, relax. Nobody should invade my space.
Yeah.
Now, for schools to design different curriculums, or whatever you may call, or when we talk about the early childhood education portfolios or platforms, how will you treat every child with a different characteristic and personality? Don't you think it's a little impossible to state that, okay, yeah, we do that? How is it possible?
See, like if you have a teaching methodology that is responsive,
Yeah.
because you know, when you are you have a responsive attitude, it means you are looking into each and every child and knowing their interests, you are teaching your curriculum over there.
Yeah.
Right? I know a child wants to touch and he wants to have a visual, you know, a visual
Representation of it, yes.
of everything. I will try to take her outside and showing her leaves, finding out the snails, picking them up, putting up the stones in places.
But you will not take the only child, na? You
No,
will have
no,
to
no,
take
no.
the entire class. Okay,
No,
how
no,
these
no,
सारे
it's
बाहर
not,
चलते हैं?
no, like, no, what I believe, yes, every child has his own like curiosity
Yeah.
levels and has his own ways of learning.
True.
Right.
So, in my curriculum, what I believe, or in every curriculum, like a teachers should do this, that they should respond to each child's individual learning plan, you can say, work on that child and take that child give some time, because 4 hours you are not learning constantly.
right.
You are learning, but I'm not saying that the whole class is learning in the same way.
Right.
What you can do, you can separate the child and use their interests.
But Miss Nargis,
Yeah.
we cannot, so for example,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversation around the inclusivity in the education, right? And the children who are neurodivergent, you know, who have this autism, dyslexia and all of these learning disorders, we cannot deny the importance of power
course
of the
not.
play,
Of
right,
course not.
in those kids learning. And they have the certain gifts, right? They're very creative.
True.
They have the power to identify a lot of
True.
different patterns. And I was reading a report that these big companies, these unicorns, they want to hire people out there there who can identify the patterns, especially when it comes to the algorithms and all of these, complex languages codes, right? So when we talk about in the context of Pakistan, and like Shahzad mentioned that most of our children, they are enrolled in the public schools, right? And especially who are coming from a very poor background.
Yeah.
So how can we make sure that we give them a level playing field? Because if you talk about the education system, it is hinged around maths, English, Urdu, social studies, all of these concepts, right? And it discounts arts or the power of the play as something that is very extraneous, that does not need to be focused on. But this is not how things are going in the modern era. How do we address this?
See, curriculum is the same thing, right? Curriculum will be like based upon some certain skills that if you pick up the national curriculum, you pick up the international curriculum, they have some core skills. Like that are called as a benchmarks for each child. Like for age 4, he must be knowing this and this set of skills. For age 5, he must be knowing this and this. I'm not denying it, but I'm denying the methodology. I'm saying that do not stick to one methodology, right? There's always like, this is a very commonly said that do not judge a fish by climbing a tree.
True.
So definitely every child has got certain skills, set of skills. So if you expose them to the environment that is fully equipped with the learning materials, regardless of what patterns the child is having, because I have seen children do come to me with having some sort of behavioral issues, some sort of mental issues, because nowadays it's very common.
All right.
It is getting, because due to that, maybe you can say that COVID era, the children are more into that digital learning thing at a very early age, and we do not allow them to touch textures.
Yeah,
that was our fear.
The only thing they have been touching is iPads. That's it. Tablets.
That is the thing. And we have been sanitizing their hands. Don't touch. Oh, please don't touch this. They're full of germs and all that. So what I have seen that younger kids, they are coming to me with no eye contact. They are unable to communicate themselves. They are unable to regulate their emotions because they are looking into the screen in which people are always happy.
Yeah.
Like there will be people teaching them, talking to them, having the same kind of emotion.
And their senses are not developed.
Their senses are not developed. They do not interact with the humans.
But madam, at this point of time, I think what we really need to kind of unfold is, a child who, for example, if a parent cannot afford their child to attend a preschool, how do you think that they can do it at home? Number one. Number two, what difference will it make when, from preschool, they will eventually be transitioning to their school, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. And for one child to be at preschool and for one child who's not attended preschool, what difference will be there?
See, the difference will be like if a child has attended a preschool, or if they are exposed to any environment that is like healthy, full of natural materials, full of the space or the liberty where a child can use his own imaginations, be it a home kitchen. I always tell parents, okay, you don't want to bring them, provide the environment at home.
True.
It's not necessary that I keep commercializing things, like you have to put them there. But the thing is this, provide them with the right environment, provide them with the right materials. At home also, mothers are doing good job.
But yes, Ms. Nargis, when we talk about the teacher-centric pedagogy, and we know that we were following when we were growing up, Shahzad and I, so we were following, or our schools were following very knowledge-based curricula, right, where teacher is the sole authoritative figure and you have to look up to it. You cannot question, because questioning was considered to be a disrespect, right? But if we talk about the modern 21st century, we know that critical skills are so much important, right? And I think the outlook should change if we want our kids to survive in this competitive era. How are we making sure, or how are you making sure these kids meets the need of the modern 21st century, and they're allowed and encouraged to question, right? Because questioning is a very innate nature of the human being. Curiosity is something that is inside us, right? How do we make it flourish in the child?
This is what I use the word like responsive teaching.
Right.
That when a child comes to an environment where we have like some learning materials around, number one, you should give the authority to the child. Give the authority, give the ownership of that place. Once,
Madam, I'm really sorry, but we've actually run short of time.
No problem.
So which is why we'll have to wrap it up over here. But thank you so much
Thank
for being
you
with
so
us.
much.
Lovely to
No
be in
problem.
conversation with you. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, look after yourselves. And yeah, there's some news updates coming ahead. Please make sure that you stay tuned to PT World. Until next time, it's a good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, madam.
thank you so much.